Currently, Peshawar Museum showcases relics from Gandhara civilization. Does it have any eye on for future acquisition?
As you know that Peshawar Museum is the biggest museums and the richest museums in terms of Gandhara collection in the world. We have thousands of these Gandharan objects beside Islamic collections and ethnological sections, painting in kinds. Our main collection is Gandhara objects. As I said, we have 30,000 objects. Only 1,000 on display and the rest on reserve collection for which we don't have space right now. But the government is trying to create more museum in different districts. So we have constructed recently 4 other museums in Abbottabad, in Kuhat, in Dia Khan, other places. So all these objects will be shifted over there with the passage of times. As far as the others collection is concerned, so we are doing surveys and excavations in different districts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, the ancient Gandhara. As according to our recent survey, we have around about 6,000 archaeological sites, and after that we have 2,000 only Buddhist sites, and you have visited few in Mardan district, Jamalgadi, Shehbazgadi and the rest. So our main collection is Gandharan object. In the future we are expecting thousands of other objects recovering from these archaeological sites. Recently, if you have visited the one in Bahu sites in district Sawabi, that's last year we have discovered, and we have excavated that site and recover more than 500 objects from the same sites. So in the future that we are expecting more of these Gandharan objects besides some other modern objects that will be displayed in this museum and the other museum as well.
What are your initiatives in planning and maintenance of Peshawar Museum?
Look, we are not independent museums. We are working under the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums, which work under the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So this is basically a provincial department, and mostly funded by the provincial department. Also, we get funds from the World Bank and other agencies and the embassies, just like American Embassy and the Swiss Embassy, Japan Embassy and China Embassy. So these people are working with us because this is very expensive, very complicated job, excavation, proper survey work and conducting all these survey excavations and maintenance of the museums and preservation, conservations and display of the object in scientific parameters. So it's very tough job and at the same time very complicated jobs. So we are doing all that and we are taking every steps in order to keep our museums maintained and well preserved. You have visited through your channel, so the people will see the present condition of the museums. So a number of foreigner visitors we are receiving daily basis, and these people appreciate the newly renovation work, preservation work and conservation of the museums. Saying a little bit about the museum building, so it itself a monument. It was constructed back in 1897. It's more than 120 years old buildings. So it's a self a monument, basically constructed not for a museums proper, but it was constructed for ball dancing or social clubs. So in order to keep and maintain old buildings and monuments and historic and archaeological building and to maintain and conserve farm, that's very difficult job. But we are doing it on our own fund, our own resources, in our own expertise, and also we acquire fund and expertise from these other people as well.
How does a museum contribute in generating income that can contribute in GDP? I'm trying to understand here the business model and working of it.
Yeah, you know that at the time of tourism, if you visit the developed countries like Switzerland, so all the economy, 90% of the economy is depending on tourism. If you visit China, South Korea, Japan, these developed countries, even America. So the most important source of income in GDP is tourism. So they are earning thousands and millions of dollars on these tourisms. You are sitting here in Peshawar in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, so we are focusing mostly on religious tourism because we have potential for that. We have Hindu culture here, we have Buddhist culture here, we have Sikh community culture here, we have the Muslims country, as you know. So we have thousands of these archaeological sites here in this Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. As according to our survey, we have around about 6,000 archaeological sites, mostly 2,000 that Buddhist. So proper excavation, proper survey work, preservation, conservation, and finally display all these objects in the museums. That's something that can be a potential for generating more and more revenues and GDP. Even today, it's according to a statistic, we are receiving more than 500 foreigners per week nowadays these days. Even today, some around about 50 Korean monks, they visited these museums. And if you know from the media, so last week we had a ceremony here in Peshawar Museums, and we received more than 200 monks, the chief monks and 200 other monks from Thailand, and they also gifted and donated some relics here in the Peshawar Museums. So through these things, when these foreigner visitors come here and visit here, and tourism will boost, of course, that will contribute to increase GDP of Pakistan.
What is the significance of a museum in the preservation of culture and heritage of any country?
You know, just like the banks play a role for the money preservation and storing of the money. So just like that, the museum is a place which collect and preserve, conserve and display all these antiquities, objects and showcases for general audience, for students, for foreigners, in order so these people can visit museums and can gain informations, knowledge, and can have entertainments. So museum is the only place that played a very important role in preserving the heritage. This is the only place where you come so you know about the past, the culture, heritage of the regions. For example, take the example of this Peshawar Museums. So if you come here and you visit the whole museums, so you know the whole story of generation, the whole story of civilization, the past civilization. And this was a museum, when we say that this museum sector play a very important role in religious harmony. And this one museum, we have objects that belong to Hindu community, we have objects that belong to Buddhist community, we have objects that belong to Sikh community, and we have objects that belong to Muslim community, Islamic community. So this is a place where you will find all the religion, object belonging to all the religion. So the museum is something that doesn't belong just one community or just one religions. It is the depiction of the civilization and culture of the community as a whole. So certainly for preserving the heritage and depicting and display of all these objects, museum is the only place that's play a very important role.
Does Peshawar Museum have any significance from the scientific perspective for the high-level institutions in Pakistan and across the globe?
You know, as I said, we are working collectively. We are working under the umbrella of Directorate of Archaeology and Museum, which work under the governments. So we are government institution, and we are working with other organizations, embassies, countries, and museums around the world. If you know the history of the working history of this museum, so we have organized a dozen of foreign exhibition in different countries. The recent exhibition was 2017, that was in South Korea. So we have exported some 40 Gandharan objects in South Korea for 3.5 months. So more than 50,000 people visited that place. In 2009, we exhibited one of what we call colossal Buddha, and behind me you can see the picture. So that is the biggest statue here we have in this museum, more than 10 feet of height and 100 kg of weights. So that is the biggest one we have. So we have displayed this object in Switzerland for 3.5 months, and more than 35,000 international visitors visited that place, and they came to know about the culture heritage of this province. Peshawar Museum, as far as the role of Peshawar Museum is concerned, so this is, you can say, international museum for Gandhara art, for Buddhist art. If anybody know a little bit about the history of Pakistan, about the Gandhara, about the Buddhist art, so certainly one thing that's come in their mind first is Peshawar Museum. As this is our claim that we have the richest collection, we have the finest collections, and we have the most extensive collection of Gandhara art here in this museums. This is another important of this museum, that we have the complete life story of Buddha in the form of these panels. If you are Buddhist, you are belong to Buddhist country, so Peshawar Museum is just like Makkah and Medina is for the position is for the Muslims. So these people from the Buddhist countries, the followers, the monks, Thailand, China, Korea, Japan, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, these are mostly Buddhist countries. So in thousands of number of these people certainly visits these museums. And we are also working in collaboration with different embassies. They are working on this. We are working right now, nowadays we are working on digitalizations. Most of our focus, of the department focus is on digitalization of the objects. So we have a collaboration with the Germany government. So we are working a collaboration with the German university. They are working, we are mutually working on the digitalization of all these objects. We are working with, recently we have signed an MOU with the Malaysian governments that helping us in expertise field in the digitalization of things. We have MOUs with China, we have MOUs with Japan, we have MOUs with Switzerland in Russia. So in collaboration with all these organizations, we are working. In talking about locals collaboration, so we have different universities across Pakistan, and they are having the archaeology department. The most important is the oldest one, the Peshawar University, Hazara University, and Islamabad University. So we are working in collaboration with all these universities in the field of survey, excavation, and preservation as well.
When you enter Peshawar Museum, it gives you an impression of having collection of Gandhara civilization. But here in the center of the gallery, I see there is something differently showcased. It's a box enclosed in a showcase. What it is?
As you can see in the center of this museum, we have displayed a new showcase there. This is a very recent addition to the museum collections, and you can see in the museum we have two things. One is the stupa models, and inside the stupa model is a very important relics that is donated by the chief monk of Thailand. That's where belongs to Thailand, and they have donated these things to Peshawar museums. And the other object you can see that is the symbolic, or you can say the copy of the metallic copy of the begging bowl of the Buddha. If you visit the museum, so you will see in many statues the Buddha with begging bowl. That's basically of stone, but the importance of that stone, due to importance of that begging bowls, the chief monk of Thailand also made a replica in metals and also donated this, and they have inscription around that. So the begging bowl of Buddha and this relic casket are the later addition to the museums. They are donations by the Thailand chief monks.